All right, Virgin, listen, yeah, we go back quite a long time. We've had a good relationship. Older person, younger person. From your point of view, because a lot of youths out there, they crave an older person, but I mean, because we've never really talked about this, what is it about our relationship that enables you as a younger person and me as an older person? What is it that works?
I think one of the things for me is that with you, in terms of the type of work that I'm trying to do in the community, I look at you as an individual that, one, can support me in looking at it, and number two, all the pitfalls that your generation or the inconsistencies and the things that wasn't done, I'm trying to bridge that gap. So with your knowledge, I'm trying to pull it into today's generation in terms of how that works out in terms of the new cultures and whatnot.
But there's a lot of youths who's probably going to be watching this. Oh yeah, man, Craig, Martin just linking up. What's important is to talk about the pros and the cons, because obviously there is benefits. But for somebody watching out there that say, "Yo, I want to talk to Martin. Like, I want what Craig's got." Let's say that was the case. The thing is, talk about what you've been through to get you to that point.
I'll go back to the first point and the first time that I met you. Do you remember it was at it was Gangology. It was a 5-day course by Raymond Douglas, and I remember that the incident. Or we had to do a scenario. Do you remember? We had to do a scenario. We had to do a presentation, and after your presentation, I was up to do my presentation about something to do with joint enterprise. And the information that you gave me on that day, for me, I was just kind of like, it was void. My argument didn't make any sense. And one of the things that I did on that session was, remember, I made everyone close their eyes and I made this big scream.
Yeah, I remember.
And I said, I don't know what that is, but I want to be able to kind of understand that and work with that. And I think following from that, I remember in the break time, nobody wanted to talk to you. Because he's like, I think there was like heads of service, heads of probation, heads of prisons, and all these different things. None of them wanted to talk to you, but because you kind of challenged me on a different level of thinking, at that point I was like, I need to understand who you was. And I think from that point, I made sure I got your number, I got your email address, and that's how our relationship started, because I wanted to learn. And I think with a lot of youths and a lot of students, that everybody wants to work in the community, everyone wants to work with young people, but a lot of people don't want to sacrifice, which is, in my case, it was time. Coming to your house every morning when I had work at 9 o'clock, being there at 7 o'clock with my pen and my pad and learning with all these ideas. And I remember, in order for me to get to certain levels, and I remember coming to the point where I didn't want to do a master's degree, you know, and I remember you saying to me, why ain't you got a master's? And I was kind of like, nah, you know, I'm working at a youth centre, I'm managing a centre, I'm kind of all right. But you was always saying to me, no, you need to up the level, you need to up your game. And I think at that particular point, it was like, you know what, I am going to apply for it. Don't know how I'm going to get the money, but I'm going to apply for it. And I think at that point, I always use you as a guide, an assistant, an advisor, as a mentor to guide me through that. But most importantly, I had to want that. And I think that's the difference with a lot of people. They want the glitz and glamour of, oh, Craig, come, I want to go into prison, I want to work with you in prison, can I shadow you and do that? But a lot of people don't want to dedicate the time, they just want to be there at the time when everything's going smoothly.
And I think what I've learned is this, because there's also a lot of older men that I talk to who say, Martin, how is it you connect to mans like Craig? How come you connect to the youths? And the one thing I've learned about yourself, and I think several things, one of them is the discipline you have, passion, the energy, which, you know, it goes without saying. But the one thing that I think works in our relationship is that I've also accepted the amount of stuff I've learned from you. I remember when you first started writing, I always remember the difficulties that you had writing. I look at your work now and it's like, it's informing what I think and what I feel. And I think that what I've learned, and this is really for the older men, is the fact that it's got to be a two-way process. In research, we call it reflexivity. You know, the impact I have on you is exactly the same impact that you have on me. It's just a different kind of impact. We've done lots of stuff together. We've occupied space together. I really value your opinion. And I think what I've also learned that's made our relationship successful is understanding the point when you have to let go. I mean, I know your mum, your dad, lots of people that know you, but I've always kind of accepted the fact that sharing is two-way. And in our case, you've been hugely influential on me in different ways. The way that you've trusted me, the way that you've brought me in to situations because you say, yo, Martin, you can do this situation, and you're still doing it. So for me, my big thing right now in 2015 and beyond is intergenerational practice. Because as I get older, I've got to do less. But as you get older, you've got to be more strategic until you can do less. So I think that our relationship has moved. And, you know, for people watching, I'm sure they're looking at your size versus my size. And, you know, but I also think the beauty about our physical differences, it also creates a lot of humour. Because we do have a lot of fun, as you know. So I'm, you know, I wanted to say that I'm really, really grateful. But the thing for anybody watching this is that you have to have the passion. Yeah. You have to have the energy. When you used to come to my house at 7 o'clock in the morning with a pencil, and you haven't got your laces are not done up on your trainers, and you'd sit down there with that face that says, Martin, I don't want to be here, knowing that you're facing a difficult situation at Oakland's or wherever you used to work, you never ran away from it. I never ever see you run out, throw the pad down, you just fought through it. And I think that, and I've experienced with you when I've been through a lot of pain, is I've had to learn to fight through it. And I think the beauty about, you know, we can have social services, we can have universities, we can have all of this stuff, but when you break it down, it requires people who are different from each other to unify and have that same passion and that same energy. And what I've learned with yourself is, I've got your back, but sometimes you operate from behind the scenes, because it's very easy when you're in my situation to put yourself as the lead person. I don't feel that. I feel I'm blessed that part of our relationship means that you now have become your own person. We talk on a level. When I read your writing, I'm looking at your writing not because it's any good, because I'm looking at what you're writing about. You bring me into your classroom as a colleague. You know, I bring you to some of the stuff I do. But more importantly, you know, and this is what I feel, is the fact that a long time after I've retired and I've put everything down, I believe we'll still be sitting here, we'll be talking and having a laugh. And so what I've learned from my relationship with you, that it started out as conversation, it then became professional, it then became like mentoring, but actually now it's just become two men, an older man, and I know most people are figuring out which the older man is, but we become but we become two men. And I personally think all that we've done is helped each other to become man, because the kind of man that I was before I met people like yourself was a different type of man, and I'm very happy with the kind of man I've become, because guys like yourself have supported me to become the kind of man, but also never let me off the hook, and you've always challenged me and whatever, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And so to anybody, there's no magic formula. What there is, it's hard work, determination, dedication, love. I'd have to say there's a deep love, there's a deep, sincere love. One thing I've always loved about yourself is being vulnerable, because with me, my size, it's easy to be vulnerable, but for when you're big, it ain't. And I've seen you at that most vulnerable state, and for me, it's comforting, because I live in a world of big, tough, hard men, and sometimes it's hard because nobody wants to be vulnerable, whereas you've got all of that, but you've also got a vulnerable side, and that makes me feel good. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, totally. And I think they're the same things in which you've got love for me for, is the same things that I've got that love for you, because you've always been there for me at a time of need. Anytime I wanted to kick off and I don't want to do youth work no more, I can't take these youths and something's going off. Anytime that any of my young people have been shot, they've been stabbed, they're in prison, or they need some sort of support, even though it's not you directly, you're giving me something that I can support them with, whether it's parents. And even in terms of my own life and some of my own struggles, there's times when I wanted to kick off with people that have attacked members of my family, and I'm kind of thinking, nah, but it's a double standard, and you've always been able to talk me out of it. And it's almost like My granddad, in a funny way, that, you know, I've got my dad. My dad's always in my corner, but my granddad was someone in my life that was always that person that was also onto me and my cousins. And it's kind of like, after he passed, it's kind of like you've kind of replaced that as an older head. So the same love I got mad for my dad and my uncles, it's like you're an elder to them. You get me? And that's the kind of connection that I kind of have with you. And there's times where we even reverse roles, where we've been to London and you're acting like a big child in London and I have to be the adult. So I think at that stage as well, it kind of shows that it's good. But then also from the youths that I work with, because you remember that time when we was working in the community and you met one of my young boys that I've worked with, and you kind of said to him that, did you know that I'm the person that taught Craig? And it was kind of like, oh, so Craig as someone that is elder to him, you get what I'm saying? And for me, when we're talking about intergeneration, I think that's part and part of the legacy, that you're instilling information to me, that even when you pass and you go, that I've got that information that I can then carry on, and then that legacy will be of those that I will support and bring up and not turn our back, because that's one of the big issues that my generation have, is that enough of them, the elders, your generation, have got the knowledge, got the information, got the understanding, but haven't really been supportive in transforming that information or giving us that information that is transparent. People have gone into their own little circles, people have lost hope, and some people have said, you know what, just do your own thing. And I think you've always been consistent in that, in the sense that all the man them in the ends know who you are, and all the man them in prison know who you are. And even when you go to somewhere like Whitemore, you go somewhere, man will still call your name as an individual that I just met once, and this individual has changed my life and whatnot. So I think it's important and it's key, and I think that unfortunate there's not enough man like you, because there are man them, there are elders that are out there, but there's not enough that are visible in the community that are passing down that information. And I think part of what we're doing is now, is at least from my perspective, is allowing you to meet other people that are young, that are students, that are parents, that want to probably have a little bit of insight what's going on in the community, students that want to make a choice of going through education or not going through education or whatever it is, but there's someone that connects the dots between a younger and an older.
Just in closing, I read an article today about creating what's called a re-entry space. And a re-entry space is for when people that come out of prison, there's a space for them to occupy before they go on. I think maybe a challenge, part of a manifesto or a movement, is to look at an intergenerational movement where the younger ones and the older ones can sit there and talk about their fears and their anxieties and actually try to come to some consensus. Because I think that some young people are put off talking to older people because they've had bad experiences with older people and are frightened of the rejection. But I think likewise, a lot of people my generation have had lots of rejection from the younger generation, and what you get, there's no way to bridge that gap. And what I feel is, for anybody that knows about me and Craig, our journey's never been easy, but we've just committed ourselves to have the kind of relationship that is had a solid foundation. And I would like to kind of suggest that maybe there needs to be that meeting, that space where people just meet, cook, talk. What we used to do, you know, I just do breakfast and you sit there with a pad. Because I think what it's about, we have to accept each one of us has something to offer the other. And I've got as much to learn from yourself or a child, but I also want adults to understand that you've also got to be big enough to be a learner. Youths want to learn. They're always telling me, Martin, I want to learn, I want to learn. I don't necessarily hear my peer group saying that they want to learn in the same way. We need to relearn, we need to restudy, we need to rethink, we need to reframe. And the way I see, if we can do it, other people can, but it requires hard work, determination, dedication. But something for me that is a deeper commitment, which is a kind of unconditional, doesn't mean we're not going to argue, we're not going to challenge each other, but what's important for me is that you realise the value that this person adds to your life. And for me, the greatest tribute that anybody can have in terms of our relationship is when I see you lecturing, when I see you coordinating a class, because 4 or 5 years ago when we first started talking, it was never something in your head. And now it's a reality. So I then can stand back and say to your mum, I can say to your dad, I can say to your family, you know something? No. We focus so much energy on what we don't do the deficit model. But I believe that there's hundreds of people like yourself, but they never get, there's no award ceremony. I would love to see a catwalk show for us, where we play music and just walk down the runway, not modelling clothes, but just saying, I'm here, I've arrived, you know what I mean? And if we can do that, and so I'm kind of moving in a new direction and I'm pulling back slightly. I want to be able to spend more time catching up on life, but more time talking, listening, observing, being part of something. And I know that there's a lot of older men that want to do that. And I'm encouraging them that maybe we need to do that. But I want to say to the younger ones who are frightened and scared and angry and upset, maybe for just 5 minutes. Because during the Second World War, First World War, remember on Christmas Day, they stopped fighting and then they played football for 5 minutes. Well, maybe some of us should just get together in a room, do some cooking, and for just an hour, see what happens. Because if this is anything to go by, as somebody that comes from my background, I am so grateful that I feel I've got a connection to people and things, which is solving a massive void in their life that's been difficult. So I just want to say thanks.
And it's the same, you know, I feel that with the youth that I work with, enough of them have got voids in their life, enough of them ain't grew up with their father or older brothers locked up, serving 35 years or a long prison. So I feel that at times I feel that void. And I think in the context of youth work, sometimes people can't understand the connection that you have with young people, and that connection that you have with me is the same connection I'm trying to instill with young people. And you've kind of taught me that, so I'd like to say in the same sense, thanks for that also.
Well, that's it then, brethren. Thank you.
Still beat you up.